it was a little bit hopeless feeling. I remember being like, man, I don't know if what's going to happen here. And it was about 2007. And I remember I would just start adding to our website different product and offerings. And I got a call on a late Friday and I wanted to go home. And I said, well, I'm going to stick around till 3:00 and then I'm out of here. And I got a call from Grainger and they said, hey, we're interested in XYZ product and we're interested in 200 units of this. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, well, that's big. And from there, we were able to learn how to manufacture our own tool line with some upfront, costs associated with it, because we couldn't just go to tool manufacturers and buy the raw tools, 2 or 3 at a time. We had to have a big amount of opening order to get in with these guys. So that was sort of the evolution that kicked it off. But I mean, it was meager there for a lot of years until 2007 was when that sort of changed.
Welcome to the LiveWire podcast, powered by family. Join us as we explore the untold stories behind America's electrical infrastructure, sparking conversations about life, safety, business, and innovation. Brought to you by OEL.
Episode 2, LiveWire podcast, Josh Dyer, aka Big Brother.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is my first ever podcast, and it's kind of exciting and neat to talk about. So apologies on my voice. I was at a concert last night, which is normally out of my purview of things. It was a bunch of Gen Xers out there at Fiddler's Green, so I'm a little bit tired this morning, and my voice is a little bit hoarse, so apologies.
Who'd you go see?
I went and saw Collective Soul live, and
wait, live the band?
Yeah,
dude,
and Our Lady Peace. So it was a lot of Gen Xers out there, has-beens like myself, trying to still act like we're having a good time. It's normally out of my entertainment purview, but I got dragged to it and got through it.
Full stop. I wanted that. I wanted tickets for that, but I couldn't. I didn't want to do it either. But Shine is still one of my favorite songs of all time. Lightning Crashes by Live. Those are jams. Those are staples of the 90s.
That was really good. They ended up, I struggled a little bit with Our Lady Peace and live, but when Collective Soul came on, those are some really good 90s metallic sounding guitar riffs. And I'm like, they don't really write music like this anymore. So I was at that last night with some old Gen X friends of mine. So
Collective Soul was headlining, right?
They did a good job.
All right.
Nice guys.
Did they do an encore and did they leave Shine for that song as the encore piece, or did they play it in the main set?
They did Shine about 4 songs in, and I remember when it came on, I was like, this is a really great, guitar hook. And they're Southern boys from Georgia. Their dad was a minister, a Southern Baptist minister. So they gave a little bit of a shout out to that.
I didn't know any of that.
You could tell they're still, I think, somewhat remotely attached to their faith. They're a couple of brothers, actually, Dean and Ed, and the 90s, post-grunge music, which is probably growing up was my favorite. That was a staple of the culture of sort of Gen X, and they don't make music like that much anymore. That's just very guitar driven. A little bit of the British bands did, and then a lot of the American bands did, but post-grunge, which is what I really liked, just because it had a little bit of a happier, less depressing sound to it. The grunge stuff of the early 90s, the Nirvanas, the Soundgardens, and the Pearl Jam, and then what was the other of the big 4? Alice in Chains was a much darker sound. So I liked a little bit more of the post-grunge stuff. So there was some throwback for me, but not getting home till midnight is big for me on a Tuesday night. So,
dude, I heard live. I have actually heard that live is really good live as a band.
Yeah, his vocals were decent. He seemed like a decent enough guy, but their set went on, I thought, a little bit long. I thought I was ready for Collective Soul. But
and then the other one was Our Lady Peace.
Our Lady Peace.
I've heard of that band before. Yeah. They have one song that I think I've heard, because I've seen it on my Spotify playlist, and I'm like,
They were the opener, and that was okay. Yeah. So anyway, Collective Soul, go see them live. It's fun.
Leather jackets,
I guess. What's that?
Were leather jackets present?
Leather jackets. No, that's not really that show. It's a lot of hoodies and frumpy looking Gen Xers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I got to get home to kids in high school and college. So, and there I was in the middle of them. So, how are you doing? This is cool.
It is cool. I have not been back to Fiddler's Green since I saw Tyler Childers there last time. And then before that, though, it was the Backstreet Boys. And that concert was a nightmare. And we got into a fight with these two girls from Aurora, and it turned into a whole debacle. So it was a nightmare. But I'm good. This is cool. This is like kind of start things off and stuff. I think one thing that we're trying to kind of position with this a little bit is sort of like that, like kind of vulnerability with kind of who we are and stuff. I think a lot of people have gotten to know you over the years. They know me. They know Forrest, obviously. But I think what it kind of like the baseline thought process around this is to let people see, kind of who we are, how we make decisions, some of the factors that drive some of those decisions. I think it's all just I think it's part of like kind of the new business environment at some level is like, how do you connect with companies? How do you connect with brands, right? Like, how do you, can you have that personal connection with companies and organizations? And I just think we have a cool story to tell. So I always think it's cool to just be able to kind of be like, this is a family business. This is brothers. We're basically just some guys that got lucky kind of, and this is what we're doing. And we've been doing it for a while, and it's been fun, and it's gotten to grow, and people have gotten to be a part of that, the journey with us, and highlighting some of those people. And like I said, I think there's an opportunity just to kind of like reach back into culture a little bit right now, and know that as private equity has gulped up a lot of industry and this great capitalistic experiment in the United States, like there's some still true blue Americana family businesses, brands out there and stuff that are fighting for that story. So with that being said, where does your story start? Like, you've been at OEL for 20 plus years. I think you celebrated 20 years yesterday?
Yeah, consistently. I mean, really the start for me was back in 1997, and I can start all the way back from the beginning of Dad's career, and how that kind of fluctuated over the years. Our dad was, I'm being 10 years older than you. I saw a lot of different things at different times with his career. He was an entrepreneur at heart, so there were big swings in, financial success and financial setbacks. So, in the 80s, my dad was very, very invested in real estate. And
Our dad.
What's that?
Our dad.
I'm sorry. Our father. God rest his soul. He's a wonderful man, but for those that knew him. But, he had big fluctuating swings where he was an entrepreneur. So it was, great success or, incredible setbacks. I knew in 1995, if we're going to go back that far, that we were sort of in this place that something had to stick. And there was a bunch leading up to that. But so he took a chance on a small company up in Aurora, Colorado, while we were living in rural Texas, purchased it with the money that he was able to scrape together and financed it. I think he found it through a business broker at the time. So I was about 16, 17. And I remember that was a big role for our family. It stuck in those early years because he was invested heavily on the telecommunications side. So did very, very well for himself from 1996 to about 2000. In 2001, the dot-com bubble burst. Mm-hmm. And then the business was essentially went from, high revenues to virtually almost zero overnight. So it was a real boom and bust thing for a lot of companies at that time. And I was, busy studying finance and accounting, at a university, and got a job as a consultant at a Dallas-based accounting firm. And I thought that was going to be my trajectory. And then I remember it was April, and I flew up to see him. He had moved the family and you guys up here in Christmas of 2000. And, the presentation was there like, hey, help me reinvent this, or I may just have to sell what's left and figure something else out. And that was unsettling to me. And I went back to Dallas and I was like, do I want to stay in this corporate environment where I know it's a sure thing? Because I knew I could do the work. I didn't particularly love it. I didn't love the culture, but I knew I could do the work in the Dallas corporate scene and probably climb that ladder and be fairly successful and maybe not be fulfilled completely in life, but have what I thought would be, adequate. But then I also had a family legacy over here where, as the oldest, there was that, I don't want to say pressure, but that is the right word. I mean, there was some pressure to say, let's see if we can reinvent this. So in 2002, moved from Dallas to Denver, not really knowing a soul, and went to work with my dad, our dad, sorry. And
Thank you.
And we struggled for a lot of years through this, trying to see if the telecommunications market was going to come back, and it really never did. So it was 2002 to really 2007 that was just kind of barely scraping by. He was making very little money. I was making very little money. He had some decent savings, but there was a fear to not lose that again. So I know reinvesting in the company was something that was very, very, he was apprehensive about. Yeah. Because he was already, our dad was a bit older. He was already pushing 60.
Yeah, you're trying to save what you got.
You're trying to save what you got.
Do I have enough to make it to the finish line?
Do I have enough to make it to the finish line? And because he was, he had 5 kids, he had still Sterling, and Forrest, that were little that he was still having to raise. So there was, and I'm already 24, 25, 26 at this point, trying to eke through with this, but he's like, I'm still raising, kids.
Oh yeah, dude. He's still in the throes of life.
Sure. Yeah. At 57, 58 years old. So I understood, looking back and reflecting on that, I can see where there was the fear and anxiety to really heavily reinvest in something where he had done well from, 1996 to 2000. So that was a bit of a battle. And I remember it was, drink my Liquid Death.
Liquid Death. Not sponsored by Liquid Death.
Not sponsored by Liquid Death, but I got to read this. This ruthless tall boy of flavored sparkling water has a twisted plan to use natural agave and exploding bubbles to murder your thirst and recycle your soul.
Amen.
These guys are great. Anyway, it's actually a good product.
I think it's good. It's worth every bit of $4.
But so it was about 2007 or 8. And I was really dejected one Friday. I remember I worked alone for basically 5 years. My dad would come in intermittently, but it was basically me at an office by myself trying to, manage a few calls, make a few cold calls, not really having much of a product line to offer. A lot of the customers that we used to service were gone. So it was sort of, it was a little bit hopeless feeling. I remember being like, man, I don't know if what's going to happen here. And it was about 2007. And I remember I would just start adding to our website different product and offerings. And I got a call on a late Friday and I wanted to go home. And I said, well, I'm going to stick around till 3:00 and then I'm out of here. And I got a call from Grainger and they said, hey, we're interested in XYZ product and we're interested in 200 units of this. And I was like, okay, well, that's big. And from there, we were able to learn how to manufacture our own tool line with some upfront, costs associated with it because we couldn't just go to tool manufacturers and buy the raw tools, 2 or 3 at a time. We had to have a big amount of opening order to get in with these guys. So that was sort of the evolution that kicked it off. But I mean, it was meager there for a lot of years until 2007 was when that sort of changed. Not to say it hasn't been challenging since then. It has been, but it still is.
We were talking about it yesterday. It's like, it's changed from like, how do you make a business make money for you in a way, right? So you can like pay your mortgage and do all the other crap. But then it's like, I feel like I don't work for anybody but everybody else. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I would love to do the things I want to do at some point in the day. But that never happens anymore, which is fine. But it's I didn't know what I didn't know, and I still don't know anything. It's like, it's a crazy scenario to be in at this point. Okay, so 2007, Grainger calls. Here's this big order. We're gonna make insulated tools, and now it is game on. at this point. The lights turn on. You're like, hang on a second. Maybe there's something that we can save here and we can turn this into something else and it can kind of start this reinvention process.
Yeah. I mean, that was at least where, like you said, the light came on and I was like, okay, we've got maybe something that is needed for the market, because before it was very obscure.
Yeah.
Excuse me. That liquid dust talking to me.
Yeah.
But that was where we did see that there was a product offering in the high voltage space in the United States for a need for these types of products. And we were familiar with those types of products, but we were like, why can't we, contract and make these things ourselves and private label them? So there's a lot of details I'm glossing over, but I was like, okay, this is something here that has some continuity to it and a constant demand. So yeah, from 2007 on, it was we had a product line, and by about 2009 we had established that we had gloves, clothing, and the tools. But that was about a 2-year process between the Grainger call and really 2009. And then you have the 2009 bust, where you have the economy and the mortgage crisis.
Here we go again.
So I'm coming out of school in 2001, right after 9/11. Then we got 2008, 2009 crash. And then we've gone through COVID too. And that's a whole nother set of things that was a very interesting time for businesses as well. But from there, we were just, in those years, we knew that there was a level of need in the industrial market, and that a lot of people just didn't do it very well. They had a good product line, but the customer service and that personal touch was really, really missing in the space. So, and I think it is in a lot of, different industries, almost, across a lot of them right now.
Yeah.
But, we can get into the private equity stuff and you can talk about that. But, that was kind of the quick, for those that are listening, that was kind of the quick evolution. And then you came on board around 2015. And I always use the same stories that you hear me use. So apologies that you have to hear them again. But, you brought the aesthetic side to the industrial market, which had almost no emphasis on any kind of aesthetics. And I'm going to do it. My brother has to listen to this all the time, but I'm going to use the Whole Foods analogy.
Yeah.
The carrots and the cucumbers, right? And you walk into a grocery store and there's something that they do with lighting that makes carrot and cucumbers that have come out of the ground for thousands of years look more appealing.
Yeah.
And you took industrial suits and made an aesthetic. And actually we have done some of those aesthetics too. I mean, it's not just lighting. It actually is.
Yeah. Awesome.
We've made some more improvements aesthetically. And I think you and I were at a trade show one time. I'm jumping around a little bit. You and I were at a trade show. I can't remember where, but there was a European manufacturer that gave us a catalog and we wanted to hold on to it. And there was an emphasis on some aesthetics in the European market that was, absent in the American market. It's just kind of like, put it on, get the work done. Let's go. There's another, sort of that capitalistic mindset. Yeah. Next one, next thing, let's go. And instead of an emphasis on sometimes, that quality and appearance, and the American worker varied from what the European market was doing. So we took some of those pages a little bit and you ran with that, and it's been fun to watch.
I would like to take full credit for all of it, and I will.
I know you would.
So sorry for interrupting you, but if you can subscribe, and reshare this podcast to someone it'd really mean a lot to us. All right, let's get back to the episode. Yeah, okay, so there's the inception of the whole thing. What's the hardest thing about running a business that's growing as fast as it is? Because it's like every time we turn around, it's like I keep thinking that, the payoff is just on the other side of this hill, just on the other side of this hill. And then you get to the top of that hill and you're like, oh crap, there's another hill we got to go to. And it's like, what's the hardest thing for you on the emotional front of just kind of like adding people in and just kind of like building this mentality of growth, but not being so crazy with it? Like there's a balance in that where it's like you can over risk everything and then you can also not grow either, right? And you can run the risk of not risking. So how do you kind of like manage that balance of what that emotion is? Because I can't sleep at night.
Yeah. So so the question is kind of like, what's the hardest thing? I mean, I'm going to see if I can be real concise and direct with that. there's the obvious, right? That you're managing cash flow. That's a burden, right? And you're dealing with a company like ours that is dealing in tangible products. So there's constant reinvestment.
Yep.
Then there's the aspect of knowing that as you're running this company, you become responsible in a sense for a certain level, not all, but a certain level of financial decisions you make are starting to affect now 10 families, 15 families,
that sucks.
20 families, 30 families.
Their kids, you're helping them break generational curses or whatever else that's associated with that. You're like, oh, I didn't factor all this responsibility when we decided to do this.
Had no idea, right? That I was forthcoming.
Yep.
And so that's a tremendous burden that I have to pray a lot about. Some of it I'm okay taking on. Others I'm like, wait, I have to yield to some personal responsibility of hey, they've got to manage their lives. But when you're making big financial decisions that can affect up to, dozens of families, that's daunting.
Yeah.
And you have to be calculated, and you have to be selfless a lot.
Yeah.
And you and I talked about that when we met with Gore. The reason that I think the basic success of what we have is because of a spiritual alignment that we have as brothers, you, me, and Forrest. A lot of people will want to create a company to make as much money as they can and use the company for whatever financial gain they can have, make it become their personal expense account, their slush fund. And I see that stuff all the time with smaller business owners. And by smaller, I mean, 50 million and under. And we decided spiritually how we wanted to align was to give people that work in our business balanced lives, pay them well, give them flexibility to live life, and then, hopefully have enough money to where we can live reasonably and comfortably. And I think we're able to live reasonably and comfortably, but not excessively. And that balance is, different. I mean, first of all, we're sitting here in Douglas County, one of the wealthiest countries and one of the wealthiest counties and one of the wealthiest countries. That's a pretty great privilege, and finding that contentment too, with what is enough and asking your why. Why are we wanting to grow like this? And I think it's because we want to be the best at what we're doing in the industry for an industry that truly has a need. And I think as the United States reindustrializes in different industries and some traditional industry, I think will return maybe to the United States under the new administration with making foreign product a little bit more expensive. But the why is to try to create balanced lives physically, emotionally, and spiritually for the people that we're working for. And we really do work for them. I mean, you try to be a servant leader. And I know that's a buzzword now.
Yeah.
Well, servant leadership, what does that really mean? I mean, it means putting yourself last. And there's a lot of times where you and I will, and Forrest, I want to make sure I give him credit on this, where we'll yield to reinvest back into the people and withhold that. So you've got to have that or you're not going to grow and you're not going to retain people.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, I mean, some of the biggest thing, is the burdens you have sometimes knowing that financial decisions you can have can impact, like I said, dozens of families, positive or negative. It's weighty. And I'm always wrestling with that. And some of it, all of it, I have to give to God and say, hey, help me have some virtues here as we make these decisions. So that was something I did not foresee, as we grew and grew and grew.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. How much of your faith do you think you have to lean on? Like, has it been one of those things where, like, as you've gone through the journey, and I like to say, like, we've walked a lot of it together, which has been really the coolest part of the whole thing for me has been just watching, like, obviously everybody, but also watching my brothers especially kind of excel into each one of their sort of individualistic traits that they have and skill sets, and having what feels like all of us kind of honor those values and those skills that each one has individualistically. So I think that's kind of the thing that's been most exciting to watch. But how has your faith kind of, as you've embarked into each one of these new chapters and stuff, and like I said, what's been nice is that we do it together. And a lot of times, How do you lean into your faith through that process more? Like, do you find yourself just being like, oh my gosh, I'm more overwhelmed than I've ever been, and I don't know what to do? Like, how do you kind of reconcile all that?
Like, what's some practical things I do?
Yeah.
I mean,
Like on a daily
I have to pray. I have to take small moments during the day, usually in the morning, to pray. And then I set myself reminders during the business hours to take some time to pray to God and say, help me through this right now, and give it back to him. Ultimately, he owns everything. I own nothing.
Yep.
You hear a lot of people too, it's my family, it's my business.
Yeah,
it's my
totally.
this,
Absolutely.
it's that, it's God's. You're stewarding it. So I have to pray for those moments of clarity and those virtues. I try not to pray for outcomes, make this happen, God, or don't make this happen, God. But I do pray for virtues like, God, can you give me the fruit of the Spirit? Can you give me the patience and the meekness and the kindness and the long suffering as we walk into this storm that we're about to go through? And I don't always do that. I'm still human. So, but as far as some real practical, pragmatic things that I do now that I never would have done before, and I coped with it in much unhealthier ways, as you witnessed, and we don't have to go into that, but so taking that time to pray, and prayer does work, and all. It's not necessarily I don't always get an answer, but I do offload that responsibility and say, I'm not in charge of it. Ultimately, God, you are. So. That's been incredibly therapeutic for me in those real stressful moments. And we've had some touch and goes in 2025, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Where we both looked at each other and been like,
oh, this
you
sucks.
sleeping? No. Are you sleeping? No.
This sucks. No, this sucks. I thought this was going to be a good year.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a good year. It's like everything's growing, everything's maturing, everything's blossoming. That's awesome. We're hiring people. We're doing this. We're expanding product lines, all that stuff. It's all super fun. But
it's incredibly privileged too.
It is. And that's why it's like, you get to drive, like where the office even is for that matter, right? It's like the freaking mountains are right there. It's like, this is incredible to like just be in this type of an environment, working with your family, building something that's of value, right? It's not like we're sitting here trying to sell insurance or something else that's okay, sure. Like,
no disrespect to the insurance company.
Yeah, but who cares?
At all.
Awesome. So it's like, we're not selling anything we're selling like actual tangible goods into a marketplace that is actually protecting people and then freaking keeps the lights on and stuff. So at the end of the day, I look at it and go, man, this is exciting. This is awesome. This is totally privileged in a lot of ways. And I think it's really, really cool to just get to do it. But at the same time, that comes with even almost a more sense of responsibility of like, don't screw it up either. Yeah. And I think that's like that's the thing that I struggle with is don't mess it up. It's a really good thing. You guys have, been blessed to get to the place that you're at today. And if you start getting too cocky or high and mighty on yourself, pride comes before the fall. So here we go. It's like that, where's that cliff's edge and stuff? Cause it's right there.
Well said.
Who do you like better, Forrest or me? Or Forrest, whatever the
Tim. I like Tim. Now, I have a unique relationship with both of you. As the oldest, there's ways that I connect with you that are really, really awesome. And there's ways that I connect with him that are really, really awesome. Y'all's personalities have some parallels, but they have some real differences. Forrest is more prone to, comedic type of coping, and it's hilarious. You're very stoic and straight, and I can usually tell when you're stressed because you're like me in a sense, like you'll get quiet, and I can usually tell when you're overwhelmed. Forrest is much more easy to read, and he just flat out says it. So, I guess I'll do the mom answer and say I love you equally both.
Okay. All right. Good answer.
So, you gotta go that way.
What's the biggest struggle of working with family?
Oh man.
Cause you're the oldest of 5, right?
Yeah.
So there's 5 kids, 3 of them are in this business. 2 of them are not in the business. Our mom lives down the street, but they're kind of like, we're all sort of in this band of misfit things going together and stuff into the whole journey. And so like, what's the hardest thing about working with family that you've experienced? And then I'm going to ask you what's the best part of it too.
Yeah. So. That's really hard. There's challenges with, generational, movement from business to business that, our parents' generation, you know, the values that they had were different, and there seems to be, and I'm going to be careful here because I don't want to get into boomer bashing, even though can be fun. There was a reluctance to sort of let some things go and let us take it in the direction. So we had to overcome that. I mean, you were obviously present for that.
I was in the crosshairs of that thing most of the time.
We were in the crosshairs, yeah. I mean, that was not easy. And for those of you that are in that situation, that are trying to shift a business from a older generation, maybe born in the 40s, 50s, or 60s, to a generation that was born in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, reach out to us if you want. I mean, we did that, and it's not easy. So there was that aspect that was incredibly difficult, and so that's real challenging. I mean, it is just, I still reflect back on 2015 to like 2018. That was not fun, and even some challenging years in 2020, 2021. But so there's that multi-generational, and you watch a lot of companies try and do it and just ultimately fail. I mean, really bad. I mean, you and I have heard the horror stories within the industry of some competitors that just father gets pitted against son, and husband against wife, and it dissects over money, and we're just like, and we always look at it the same way, oh man, that's so sad. So it takes a lot of communication, a lot of humility. I do know that when I've acted in areas of self-interest, that never really pans out well for me. When I let go and say, I'm not going to act in a way that's in self-interest, but I trust God that things are going to come out okay, they usually do. And they may not be in the time frame that I want, right? That might be over a period of time. But when I let go, I mean, because there were years in there where I was acting out of self-interest, and it was, it didn't have a very good outcome. And when I yield and say, I'm not going to act in self-interest, it's always in the long run played out. It might have been uncomfortable up into that, but if I just let go and say, the right thing will happen, let me just yield here and see what happens, I usually have had good experiences with that. But man, when I try to insert my will, and I think I did in some years in the past, and we all did, and there was contention, between moving the company from one generation to another.
Yeah, we all got fired at one point.
We did, yeah.
In the same day.
I didn't know we were going to go there.
In the same day, it was a mutiny.
Yeah. I didn't know we were going to go there. So that was interesting. I think that was in May of 2018. So
yeah, I mean, but I say it in like kind of like the whole. It's the arc of the story in a lot of ways. Like that's kind of the piece of it that like I just think it's part of it. You're never going to get along all the time. It's just like, how do you learn how to get past things quickly. And families do have, at least if it's I can argue if it's healthy or not, but like they tend to get over things quicker, which is nice, right? Like, and you can tend to trust them a little bit. Yeah, I know. It's like, well, at least in our circumstances, at least, like generally
there
speaking,
were some resentments held, I think,
sure. But like, I think at the end of the day, like I trust you guys so much, and I think that's what makes the whole thing kind of work, is just that trust element of it. Is like, Ace has got a wacky idea over here. Josh is playing too conservative over here. Forrest is running his mouth over. It's just like all of a sudden, but it's like if you get us all back in a room real quickly, then it's generally like we can get to where we need to get to pretty quickly. And you don't have to go through all the HR formalities of things and stuff. You're like, hey, knock it off. Let's get back to it. Like, here's what we're here for, type of a thing. It's almost like a really good, well-oiled, football team or something like that, where it's like you can get in there, you can kind of rip each other apart a little bit if you need to, get that out of the way, and then get back to business and stuff. Whereas I think that's like always the challenge when it comes to, you're so careful with everybody else's emotions, but with family, if everybody does respect each other at the end of the day, like, you don't have to worry about their emotions as much. I mean, you should care about them, but I don't have to worry about forced emotions or your emotions sometimes, because I'm like, I got to get this said, this needs to get out, right. And we can all typically move past it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can implore, the scriptures, speak the truth, but in love,
Second half is hard.
Yeah, it is. And, say what you mean what you say, don't say it mean. And there were some years in there where things got said mean. But yeah, in the multitude of counsel, there's wisdom, right?
Right.
And so usually when we're able to get into a situation where we all three talk through something, we all come to a unanimous agreement, especially when it comes to issues of money, how to invest stuff. I mean, you guys let me run the day-to-day on this, kind of the CEO, CFO side of things, and there's full trust there. In turn, I give you get full creative freedom to pursue the projects that you want, like, this podcast and the marketing stuff, and there's full trust there. That doesn't mean we don't make mistakes. I'll usually tell you if I think you're going too far overboard with a risk here, and you'll usually check me up and say, hey, I don't like that, and here's the reasons why. And we're usually able to come to that mutual agreement. And then we let, Forrest kind of be his free-flowing self in the sales side of things. And so, we usually do come to a unanimous decision. I've really never seen us not have a unanimous decision on the big stuff, overall, whenever we're able to talk. And that comes from being on the same spiritual side of things. If you're spiritually dissected, whether it's a marriage or a business relationship, you're just not going to be able to progress together. So, and I think we have those basics together.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
So,
let's see.
Struggling for things. Do you want me to just?
I'm trying to decide if I want to be. I'm trying to decide if I want to be like more campy with you and kind of rude or something, or if I want to.
It's taking a serious tone.
Yeah,
here.
I know, and it's kind of like you keep going back to that, and I'm like, dude, chill out. Like it's fine. We can just be like, we can be a little bit
goofy.
razz with each other a little bit.
Yeah. I think on the first one, I'm going to probably err on the side of being, more benevolent and not as
Okay.
not roast you.
So, yeah.
Even though there's lots of material for both of us.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like I want to kind of go there in some respect because it's like I just think it's more fun. But at the same time, I'm trying to be like.
How many people do you think are going to watch this?
Like 5.
Like 5? I think we get 10.
Maybe. I'll watch 9 of it myself.
I don't know. I'll ask you a question. What's been the biggest challenge for you in the family dynamic and running the business? I mean, I kind of said the financial responsibility of knowing the impact you have on families is pretty daunting at times. What's been for you? I mean, this thing is relentless.
Well, I know.
I mean, I see you just doing a million things all the time where you're just, like I said, I know you well, so I'm able to tell when you're overloaded. I mean, what work-life balance?
Yeah, I think I told you this yesterday when we were leaving. I think what's hard is I see where things can be. Like, I don't want to use the word totally idealistic and stuff, but I think that's appropriate, which is like I see where things can go, right? I see where it can kind of get to its final form and stuff. And then working backwards from that is always my biggest challenge in setting infrastructure for it. So, whether it's sales stuff or marketing stuff, it's like I can already see the picture that I want it to be. And now what is the actual miles it takes to get to that destination is the piece that's hard for me. I get exhausted by it. I get frustrated by it. I feel like if I'm not doing a good job communicating the vision for that becomes a real big irritation for me, a real high stress point. And then I end up over communicating on it to the point where I exhaust people off of it. So I think that's kind of the hard part of figuring out where do you, like, how do you balance the sort of the people portion of it versus the opportunity costs that are associated with it. So, I mean, that's probably my hardest thing is, like I said, I see it as such a huge value thing. Like I see it as, dude, this thing could be awesome. And it already is awesome, right? So it's taking that inventory to kind of find the contentment where you're at today too, because I think it's been awesome. It's been great. I just think it can be even better. And here's the things that I think could be better and that I'd like to see efficiencies on. And that's where Forrest and I are really well aligned.
Yeah.
We have a different communication strategy a lot of times to get our positions heard. But
that's putting it mildly.
Yeah. But I think one thing about, at least for the two of us, is that we both think that this is the greatest place in the world. This is the greatest company in the world. And let's make it the greatest place for everybody that is involved with us, right? Like we want the experience to be so high. And I love that. I love that type of ambition from him. And I love it from other people at OEL. Like they feel that same thing and they say that. And I think there's always this burden with it being a family business that I have this always kind of this monkey on my back that's like, I want to like make dad proud of what he left behind, even though he's not here. Letting mom see some of that culmination of the three brothers working together and what they could do as a combined force in this business, that we got a great platform to start off of, and now look at them build it, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's always like, that's kind of that fun. It's probably a little bit of ego too. It's the fun part of it though, for me, like on the human side of it, that I'm like, dude, this is like, let's go. Like, this is awesome. Like how many times are we going to get, you're not going to get a lot of chances like this in a lifetime to begin with. And then even more rare is to be able to do it with your brothers who are all spiritually aligned with you and stuff, and be like, dude, let's build. Like, these are stories that you hear about in a generation. And I'm like, that's a cool storyline to be in. For me, I get enamored with the narration of that story too. And so I'm like, this is awesome. Like, this is legacy.
Yeah.
So
there's some kind of ideal you have that you're chasing, that you're pursuing. And there is no there, right? In life, there really isn't.
No, and that's what I've had to discover through the process. That's why I fell in love with photography, was no matter how many times you shoot, no matter how many subject matters you choose, you're never going to be able to tell all the stories and get it exactly the way that you saw it. But even the way that you saw it, when you hand it off to somebody else or let other people be involved in it and stuff, sometimes it can mature and blossom into way better than you even envisioned it. And I would say that there's definitely parts of this journey that has happened a lot more times than not, where the more I was able to let go of it, the more I was able to watch it actually grow and appreciate the process, and then even really appreciate what it looked like in full bloom with other people's contributions in it. So it's been a revelation side of it, but I still have to battle this tight and neat and orderly
vision
or
image that is
but that's how my mind works. My mind works in the final product and then work backwards from that. So because that's the dreamer, that's the imagination side of my brain that wants to go there and wants to think about the possibilities and then back it out from there. So
I kind of let go of that around 40. I want to say early 40s. And you're coming into that where you're like, there is no kind of end destination. I mean, life is always throwing these curveballs, and you know, you can look at, you know, the generation now that is kind of older, and while they may have a lot of money, now they're battling the health issues and their body's deteriorating, and there's this new set of challenges. Even though we got all the money and we got the McMansion and we got the house and we got all these things, I mean, that is always evolving. So and I think that that's where it benefits, you know, us as a company, where we try to be eternally minded, right? I mean, I ask this to guys in my Bible study group, and the room got real quiet, including me. But it was the question was posed to me: did I do anything that has eternal value today? And I felt real small with that question. I was like, well, I did a lot of things that have some real earthly value. I think. So once you kind of get more eternally minded, and I think we try to do that with how we treat the people in our business, and then some of the other stuff that we want to invest in, you know, on the ministry side of things that really give us the fulfillment, right? We make money so that we can help do things that have some eternal value. Making money is important. I don't want to shy away from making profit. We are one of those evil for-profit entities.
Exactly. we have to make money. We have to make money. We have bills
and
to
we
pay.
Like it.
We have like payroll to. Yes, all these things. This is part of a business, and that's a good thing. You provide a great value proposition to a marketplace that you earn money with, that you can grow and expand opportunities. That is the equation that we are all working inside of, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's when it becomes demonstrous and evil that it becomes a problem. I like to believe that we are, although arrogant in stature, humble in spirit.
Arrogant in stature, humble in spirit. What do you mean by that?
Tall, whatever, and stuff like that. I was like, it's just like one of those things where I'm like, I know, here comes the Dyer brothers. It's like, there's freaking 18 plus feet of height.
I normally don't feel physically inadequate for the most part. And then I get around you and Forrest and Tim and some of the guys, and I'm like, okay, I got to get away from them. They're physically pretty imposing. They're younger. They have less silvers in their hair. I'm like, I gotta move away. So y'all are an imposing group of young men.
I told you the time where Forrest was like, we were at the office and he pissed me off so badly. And I believe I can psychologically beat Forrest no matter what. Like I've got that in me where I'm like, I can supersede you. I think he got in my face and he had been working out a lot. And he grabbed me by both sides of my arms and like basically lifted me up. And I was like, oh, whoa, this is no longer fun for me. And I was like,
I think I feel
he has officially surpassed me in both size, weight, and strength. And so I was like, huh. And I was like, all right, well, I can't show any weakness here. So, right at his face.
Well, for those that don't know us, and some might, we all run about 6'4", 6'5", and our youngest brother's about 6'4". I like to say he's about 380 pounds.
Yeah.
He won't like that, but no, he runs probably 6'4". He's a good 225, 230. He is a hulking dude. So
Yep.
So, and don't underestimate him. He's pretty smart too.
Oh, he's super smart. He's super savvy too. And he's probably one of the most quick-witted people I've ever come across in my entire life. And I think that is what makes him hilarious. But also it's
a loose cannon.
It's a total loose cannon.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know what he's going to say.
Sometimes things are funny in his mind, just like they are with your wife or girlfriend.
Yeah.
Like, it's funny in my mind, and then you say it, and you're like, uh-oh.
No, he's the guy that gets up to bat, and it's like, dude, he's going to either strike out or he's going to win us the game.
Yeah,
one of the two is about to happen.
He's cranking it over the fence.
Generally speaking, he usually wins the game. But there are a couple
misses
where I'm like, wow, you swung at the high fastball. Why? Why?
There's some big misses. Yeah, there's some big misses. But no, I think Dad would be, incredibly pleased if he were to see, what it is today. Again, I come from, originally 1997, where we were shipping product and using the ping pong table in a little garage area to ship our product. So, this is what it is now is, to me, I would have never believed what it could be, or what it is now. And that's the weird thing, right? That's the weird thing with success and money. It's elusive, and the human heart ultimately is insatiable and cannot be satisfied with anything outside of God. And people will pursue things to the brink of insanity, and ultimately never really find any satisfaction. So, if you'd have told me 5 years ago, hey, here's financially where you're going to be in 5 years,
you'd be like,
I'd have been like, well, I'm on easy street and it's great.
Yep.
And then I look and I'm still, how do I build? How do I build? So I have to slow myself down, and it's okay to take a few moments too. And I would say this to any person in sales or business or really aspect of life, to pause and enjoy a little bit of where you've been and look and enjoy that moment a little bit more. In a up and to the right culture of the United States that's capitalistic, and the stock market, we just need that number to go up and go up and go up and go up. And well, what does it need to go to? I don't know. It just needs to go up. Like I said, can drive you to the brink of insanity and cost, the carnage can be, immense to relationships and all that. So try to take a pause there to, if you've had some success, enjoy it for a moment, and then you can keep pursuing it. But it's insatiable. So like I said, you fast forward, for me, or rewind, 10 years ago, and I'd have been like, well, that's I made it.
Totally.
And that hasn't been my experience.
I remember when I bought my first house, I was like, okay, if I can just own a home, if I can own a home,
I'll be okay.
I'm good. And then it was just like, here's the next thing, and here's the next thing, and here's the next thing. If I could just get that piece now. And I'm the same way in business, where I'm like, okay, guys, I know everybody wants to enjoy this where we're at right now and stuff, but we got to keep going. And I'm like, you got to chill out just a little bit. Like, you've got to enjoy this process too, and not be so, again, insufferable through the journey of it, where it's like you're unsatisfiable, and it's just like, that's annoying. It's annoying, and it's frustrating, and it kills your joy and happiness in life along the journey. And I think it's been so fun. This is like kind of like this whole sort of like podcast thing and all this other stuff is like, this is the next kind of piece of this puzzle, where it's like, hey, let's put this, let's kind of put this open out into the public and stuff. I think there's a lot of opportunity to kind of take what we've done, learn some of the lessons that we've learned, hopefully, but then also inspire that next generation that, like, dude, you can do it. And like, family businesses should not be something that you shy away from. If you can do it, do it. If if it doesn't work, then that's just whatever. But ultimately, like, we're here for such a short time. Like, this is life is fickle and it's short, and like you said, like kind of God's got you where he's got you. Lean into that, appreciate that, find the joy and contentment in that, and just keep moving.
Yeah. And, I think there's a fallacy of this pursuing happiness, right?
Yeah,
Everybody wants to be happy, right?
Yeah, happiness is stupid.
I think you're chasing the wrong thing. Now, joy is from more intrinsic, right? And happiness is usually from circumstantial and external.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with a few moments of happiness, I mean, I
don't even think it's happiness, so I think it's joy. It's like you feel this sense of like, oh, this is a great moment type of thing. But happiness is this sort of like continuum of like, how do I keep the joy going? And it's like, that's not really how life works. It's like, next thing you know, something happens in 2 seconds, and then it's like, well, your joy's gone now. Well, apparently there goes my happiness too with it. It's like,
then it was tied to circumstances,
totally.
which fluctuate too much.
Yeah.
Your circumstances fluctuate too much in life, and, again, I think you can enjoy, there's happy moments, but joy is that intrinsic, like, and a peace that comes with, spiritual contentment, and that might be sometimes accepting less, and being okay with that, being willing to do that. So, pursuing happiness, I think, gets people into a lot of, we're in a very depressed society right now where, youth suicide and depression and anxiety is at an all-time high, for young people. I think because they're pursuing some kind of, vapid validation through the means of the digital drugs that they have. Because I had somebody say to me like, well, young people don't really drink alcohol like they used to, and they're really shunning that. And it's like, well, yeah, they are, but they also have this very nefarious digital, drug that they're highly addicted to that is,
why do you drink? Why do you do drugs? It's for a dopamine release, right? It's to get that high. So it's okay. So it's on your phone. Big deal.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's that new medium.
And it's back to socially acceptable now too.
Yeah. That is really insatiable. And it's just like, it's insidious. And, so again, joy comes from intrinsic, and, happiness sometimes can come from more of an external. And again, nothing wrong with some happy moments, but then there's got to be some joy and peace where when things aren't going well, what's your spirit like, right? You don't know what somebody's spiritually made of when things are going real well. When things are going poorly, now how are they going to, behave? How are they going to react? How are they going to deal with this? And I spent a lot of my years in my 20s and 30s coping with it in very destructive manners. And you saw that. And now it's much different. And making money is a great byproduct of adding value to the market and taking care of people. I mean, really now, you have to check your ego, as we've gotten to a point where we've got a lot of people that do a lot of things that are really capable of getting out of their way and being like, that's not how I would do it, but let me let them kind of do it how they see fit, and having that ultimate trust. So there's a lot of, as you grow, and I think a lot of CEOs or CFOs or leaders of businesses would say, CMO in your case, and would say, man, there's a lot of diminishing of myself that I have to do in the process. It's threatening for a lot of people to hire people smarter than themselves.
Yeah.
That's a threat.
Yeah.
For a lot of people that they don't like. And as we've done that, I'm like, oh wow, this is a little bit of a shot to my ego, but I know that ultimately this is moving us in a great direction, and I get to learn from them.
Oh yeah.
That's a way different mindset, when I was doing everything and, I had my particular ways of doing this and that.
Yep.
So I see that now with some of the things that they bring to us, with our coworkers that they, say, hey, and I'm like, wow, it's a really good idea. Some people may be threatened by that. I think for you and me, we've kind of, yielded to it. And,
I love it. I love it. I'm like, oh my gosh, sweet, a better idea. I was like, because I knew I was Jimmy rigging this thing to get here, right? It was like, I knew that there was a bunch of like duct tape on this whole process, and it was like, this isn't sustainable and stuff. And you get somebody that comes in there that's younger, smarter, and has a little bit different just perspective on a matter, and they're able to say, no, this is how this should run. And you're like, thank you very much. That's exactly what I was hoping for. No, I love that. I don't think I'm the smartest person in the room. In fact, I would say that I up until very recently struggled with like the whole imposter syndrome and stuff, and that whole LA vibe, fake it till you make it type of a thing and stuff. And seeing it now to be like more comfortable, being like, man, I'd like people being in these control cockpit type of rooms with us and stuff and being like, hey, there's a better idea. This is a better idea. Hey, we should do it that way. I'm like, go. Like, please. Like, everybody get out of their way. Let them run. Let them build their career. Let them build these opportunities and stuff. And our job is to sit on the outside, the peripherals of that, and flood it with resources and stuff for them to be able to go forward and faster and move the needle, I guess, if anything. So
there we go. We got move the needle in there. Some corporate jargon.
I had one mission, and that was to move the needle.
Move the needle.
So, okay, last question because we got to wrap up. So I
was having fun.
What's something that you would, well, here's my question. Do you think that businesses today have a responsibility to enable healthy culture? Like beyond even just like the business walls?
Yeah. I mean, short answer, yes. Are you talking about just, helping them, through, with
yeah. Like should certain businesses or should
it's very
businesses
open-ended question.
It was like, should businesses feel a sense of responsibility for their people beyond just what happens during business hours?
I mean, I do, but that's the way that I personally do, which is not always the easiest, burden to take. I naturally do have a high empathetic level. I know you do as well. So when one of ours is hurting or struggling or, has any kind of challenges going on in their life, I feel that. I have to pray through knowing what's balanced and what's not. And some of that can be their own doing. And we've had guys, that have self-destructed that are no longer with us, that couldn't get out of their own way. And then there's others that are just in they're trying. They just don't know. They haven't been given the tools to know how to navigate life, personal finance, or addiction issues, or whatever that might be. So absolutely. I mean, I think of the scripture: to whom much is given, much is required, and we're here to steward and do the very best we can. I try to always maintain, and I know you do as well. We try to maintain where we don't shoot our wounded. If somebody's truly trying to better their lives and they just don't have the tools or resources and the know-how, then I want to show them how to do that. But then we've had other instances where somebody just is intent on self-destruction. And so we have to know, again, that balance. But yeah, I mean, to answer your question, yes, I love, helping build, leaders in the community that take some of the things that we employ in the business and apply it to the outside world. How would you like to be treated? It's the golden rule. It's the Sermon on the Mount. Love your neighbor as yourself. That's the full, that's the true fulfillment of the law. Trying to employ that. And that is not easy, by the way. I'm not saying that is easy. There's plenty of times where I'm disrupted with my own selfishness and self-ambitions. But I think if you don't force it and if you lead by example, I've watched people come into our business that came from very different cultures and have changed into people that are like, I like what they're doing here. I like the way they treat me. I'm going to pay some of this forward. And you watch them, whether it's, the way that we eat or the way that we, pursue, some physical fitness and spiritual fitness. We don't coerce anybody into that. We just do. And then others say, tell me a little bit more about that. Attraction rather than promotion. Seems to be the most authentic way for that to germinate and then go out into outside of the walls of the business. So I know that's vague and that's very
no. I mean, but it's. I think that question was open ended for the reason I wanted to kind of hear your perspective on broadly on how you approach something like that, because I think that ultimately is the bedrock of culture in a organization. And I think that's what kind of where we get the most out of people is when you're able to give them not just a job, but some purpose.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know we got to wrap up, but if you just do a lot of times, whether it's in a marriage, and I got a lot of thoughts about this on sort of the masculine side of things, but the best leaders that I've seen, whether it's in business or churches or any organizations, don't coerce. They don't coerce. They just lead and people follow. So, that seems to be the most authentic way for people to see somebody that's doing something and say, I want what they have. I want to see I want to see a little bit of that in my life. What are they doing? We look at, Jesus's ministry. There was never any coercion. He just led and people followed, and we still talk about him in 2025, all these times. Then you see the leaders that coerce and you will do this. And, that doesn't go the same way and doesn't create the same authentic, true heart change of, hey, I want to change my life. And you can't transmit that which you don't have, right? So you have to have that settled for yourself too. And like I said, we have a spiritual and emotional direction that we want to go as leaders in that company. And I think you see a lot of people that come in that didn't have that and say, I want to know more about that. And I've watched men and women change as they've come into our business. And that's been the most fulfilling thing, really, is watching the lights go on for certain people that had no direction before in life. So it's a fun journey. And especially while we're small right now, we're able to do that on an individual basis. So I hope we don't lose that as maybe we continue. So
That's awesome. Big brother, Josh Dyer.
Thanks
Thanks for your time, man. That was awesome.
Drink Liquid Death. It's fun. Not sponsored by. Are we done?